Will the African National Congress get a second chance at putting forward a more complete list of candidates to take on the upcoming municipal polls? Well, today a new elections timetable is set to be announced by the Independent Electoral Commission. Friday's major constitutional court ruling means elections now have to take place between the 27th of October and the 1st of November, but we're yet to find out whether the IEC can reopen the window for candidate registrations. The ANC will be hoping for this to happen as it deals with its failure to put forward names to contest wards in 93 municipalities. Dan Mafora is with the Council for the Advancement of the SA Constitution, and he's live on the line now to discuss what could happen next. Dan, let's start off with that Concord ruling. What does it mean for the election timetable? Is it necessarily that the IEC will announce a new timetable today?
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. So the order of the Constitutional Court simply says that the IEC must now decide by today whether or not it will be reasonably possible to have a voters registration weekend in order to register new voters. And for that reason, the Concord has allowed the voters' roll to be opened again. But the order only allows amendments to the timetable itself, only where it is reasonably necessary. And what the order also does is it preserves everything that was done in terms of the current timetable, so the timetable as it existed before Friday. So if any amendments are going to be made to the timetable, they're likely to be very minor and will not affect some of the things that happened before, which of course the candidate registration deadline was way before the order of the Constitutional Court. And so if the IEC intends to open up that process again, it will definitely be opening itself up to a legal challenge based on whether or not it's actually fair for it to do that.
Well, legally, is there anything that the ANC can do now to get candidate registrations open again?
So the one option that they had, which obviously they ultimately didn't pursue, was to go to the Electoral Court and seek indulgence for an amendment to be made or an exception to be made for them to submit their candidate lists. It's not clear whether that's still possible at this stage. And so from a legal standpoint on the ANC side, we don't see an avenue for them to kind of pursue a way of getting around the fact that they missed deadlines.
What about the contention that if you don't open the candidate list, then the elections are not free and fair?
So that's a question for later. But what the Electoral Court and the Constitutional Court have said in the past is once you have an election timetable, every party that wants to contest an election must comply by that timetable. And if you don't comply, the IEC doesn't have the power to punish you or to sanction you. But what happens as a result of your non-compliance is that you are disqualified from contesting that election. So that in itself ensures that there's fairness in how the parties are treated, because all the parties have to stick by the deadline. And if all the parties manage to get their candidates in on time, why should the process be opened up just so that one party that didn't comply can be given another opportunity to do so? So those are the kinds of principles that are involved, and it will be very difficult if the IEC were to open up this process again to show that all the other parties are equally affected by its closure of that process. So they will have to explain why they find it necessary to open up that process entirely just for the benefit of one party.
In your view, Dan, is there any reason that the IEC would find it necessary to open up the candidate registrations again? From what you're saying, if there is a good reason, that Concord order says they can amend the timetable. But would there be a good reason?
So in my view, there wouldn't be a good reason, because the IEC itself in court papers, you'll remember that the EFF had asked the court to open up the process in its application in the Crown Court, and the court declined that application, or dismissed that application. So in reply, the IEC itself said if they were going to open up the process again, it might throw off the timetable which they were running on off and make elections before November 1st impossible. So we don't see any, or I don't see any reason why the IEC, any good reason anyway, that the IEC would open up this process, given the kinds of difficulties that they explained that they would face if they did indeed open it up.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for your time and for explaining that for us. That was Casac's Dan Mafora explaining the little pickle that the ANC finds itself with candidate registrations for the upcoming municipal elections.